Okay, welcome to the reboot, the 3 p.m. reboot of the noon Q&A for the upcoming Soloing from Scratch workshop, which is taking place this Saturday from at 10:30 a.m. Just making sure everything here is working. It looks like it is. So in this live stream, I'm not going to go on for too long, just going to answer a few questions I've already had about the workshop, explain a few things about what it is and what it isn't, and then if you've got questions about it, I'm happy to answer them and clarify anything I've already said about it, and if you're thinking of doing the option of joining the Fingerstyle 5 membership so that the workshop is included, I can also talk a little bit about the Fingerstyle 5 as well if you have questions about that. So the basics are, if you haven't come to one of these before, this time it's a 1-hour workshop at 10:30 a.m. Central this Saturday, October 15th, for non-members of the Fingerstyle 5. That's most everybody, or more people than not, I imagine. It's $29. That includes, there is a replay, so you don't have to be there live. You can watch it afterwards for up to 2 weeks. This time, it's the 3rd anniversary of the launching of the Fingerstyle 5 monthly lesson membership. So with this particular workshop, also including a 2-week trial membership, so that while you're watching the replay of the workshop for the next couple of weeks, you can also look around at everything that we're doing in the Fingerstyle 5. You can see what kind of songs we're working on. You can see what those live streams are like. You can look at the archive of past lessons and songs, the theory lessons, everything else that's in there. You can check it out. The workshop also includes a detailed PDF. There'll be notation and tab for all of the important exercises and licks, which I'm about to explain what those are about. And really, this workshop is primarily aimed at musicians who are able to play a little fingerstyle, or maybe even a lot of fingerstyle, but have trouble figuring out how to just sit down and play, like how to play something that hasn't been tabbed out, how to play something you haven't memorized. And we're going to work on that by going over 3 important skills and the exercises you need to develop those skills. And the first one is right hand coordination. When you go to learn a piece of repertoire, when you go to learn a song, you have to work out how the thumb and the fingers are going to cooperate, how the thumb is going to keep doing what it needs to do while the fingers do something independent. That's a big difference between most blues fingerstyle playing and any kind of pattern picking or Travis picking you may have learned along the way. And when you go to improvise, the stakes are raised yet again, because it's one thing to work out a syncopated lick against the bass. It's another to get your hands to be able to come up with things on the fly and keep the bass going at the same time. So it's not that you need to be able to completely wing it, but you just need the basic. There are certain kinds of phrases and rhythms that all blues playing is built on. And so the first thing you can do is isolate those rhythms and work out what it takes to put those rhythms in the fingers against the thumb. For example, a lot of the licks I was playing on the way in have a very typical kind of syncopation where you drop the first beat and come in on the and of 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now, you can isolate that specific rhythm by just saying, well, I'm going to keep a quarter note bass going with my thumb, and then I'm going to play that rhythm, that and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, just on the high string with my ring finger. Now you can start even before that by saying, okay, what are the things you need to be able to do? The bass is going to be playing this quarter note groove. can I put quarter notes on top? So can I just play a note on top along with every bass note? Can I play just one quarter note in the measure, say on beat 1, and then keep the thumb going independently? Can I put that quarter note on beat 2 or on beat 3? 1, 2, 3, 4. Or on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have two quarter notes in a measure, say on beats 1 and 2? Or on beats 1 and 3? And so on. And then you can take eighth notes, which are filling in between. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can start to try to do some of the same things, like dropping the first beat. Or, you know, you can play a mix of eighth notes and quarter notes. So, right, like 1 and 2, 3, 4 and. If you've ever hung out with a drummer or watched someone practice the drums, you know the drummers do a thing, they practice a thing called rudiments. They have different combinations of stickings, and sometimes they'll play two notes in a row with this hand, and then one note and then one note, or two notes and 1 and 2, or they'll do all kinds of different combinations. But before they even get on the drum kit, they'll sit with a practice pad for part of their practice every day and just work on and just drill those rudiments. These combinations of fingers and thumbs, those are our rudiments. We need to be able to isolate the rhythm and practice it separate from the licks, because once you get the licks going on, there's a lot going on, and you're thinking about everything from what note you're playing to what string you're on to what articulation you're doing, like are you hammering on, are you pulling off, all that kind of business. So the first thing is just to take a big step back and just get some of these rudiments under your fingers. And that's the first thing we're going to focus on. I've got a bunch of rudiments written out that we're going to cover in the workshop. The next step is to start using those rhythmic rudiments to turn the blues scale into licks. So even working with just the E blues scale, right? If you have, let's take something really simple, right? Like just 3 quarter notes, playing quarter notes on beats 2, 3, and 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. What can you do with those 3 notes? Now I'm cheating a little bit, right? Because I'm articulating, I'm sliding, I'm using a little vibrato, but you get the idea. That one lick, when you start taking notes and pouring them into the rhythmic container that is that specific rhythmic pattern, you'll get some things that sound good and you'll get some things that don't sound that great. To my ear, that was kind of promising. So I'm like, oh, what can I do with that? I could answer it. Then I could play the first one again. And if I had a different rhythm, I could also use that for like the answer to create some contrast, right? So you start with just looking at the scale and going, what can I do with it, with these rhythms that make it sound good? And then you can do the same thing with some eighth note rhythms, right? So I already mentioned that idea of playing all eighth notes, but you drop the first beat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this is a rhythm that comes up all the time in blues. If you've done other lessons or workshops with mine, I often call this one the long resolution, because it starts well before the bar you're aiming for, right? You're really aiming for the next bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now we're in, right? Right? You've heard that rhythm your whole life. That's one of the classic ways to play a phrase in blues. And so once you have that rhythm, you can take that all over the scale And that's not the only rhythm there is. That's just a really good one to use. Like if you had something that was mixed, made out of like mixed quarter notes and eighth notes, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So what is that? 1 and 2, that's a quarter note. 3, that's a quarter note. And then 4 and. So a few eighth notes, a couple of quarter notes. Cool. What else can we do? Right? So you can get some different things. And if you're playing, again, it's just you want to just kind of cut down on all the different choices so you can focus on just a couple of things. And if you just decide you're going to work with this one particular rhythm for a moment, now you're free to focus on the direction of the lick, where it's going to land, the way you're going to phrase it, like with the way you're going to articulate it, all that kind of stuff. So we'll spend some time looking at how to use those rudiments, those specific rhythms, to create licks out of the blues scale. And then, third thing we'll do is, now we've got some rudiments, we've got some right hand control or picking hand control if you're left-handed, try to call it something neutral. We've got some picking hand control, we've got a way to create licks, right? Don't have to necessarily learn them, off a record or from someone else, although that's cool too. But now you can basically start creating your own vocabulary, picking out the licks you like and discarding the ones you don't. Now, what are we going to do with those licks besides just play them? There are ways to there are again, just like there are certain phrases that are really typical to the blues, there are also kind of certain overall shapes that are typical to the blues. I mean, in this kind of music, we call it the form, right? Like everybody knows the 12-bar blues. That's a form. It's 12 bars long. You get this certain sequence of 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. 8-bar blues, those can those have only 8 bars. They usually, move maybe from the 1 to the 5 and back to the 4. They do all different kinds of things. Again, in terms of reducing variables to focus on what we want to focus on for now, in this 1 hour of the workshop, we're going to just work on a vamp. We're just going to play an E. We're just going to play on an E vamp. And you might think, oh man, like that's nothing, right? But think about there's tons of tunes. Like think those, Howlin' Wolf tunes, Spoonful and Smokestack Lightning, Catfish Blues, 1 bar, 1 chord, or R&B tunes, Chain of Fools, Aretha Franklin. Like there's tons of tunes that just sit on the 1 chord. And so that is both a limitation and an opportunity, right? It's like, oh, there's nowhere to go. I gotta make this interesting. And yet it's also a chance to say, well, what am I going to make out of this? And you can create form out of the seeming formlessness of a vamp by playing a really typical blues structure that you could think of as ABAC, right? Like call and response, repeat the first call, and then play a more elaborate response. So just building it out of one rudiment, we can take a first lick, right? And 2 and 3 and 4 and then we could answer it by going back to the root. And then we could repeat the first lick and then play a third lick. So something we haven't played yet. By stringing together a few 1-bar licks. So opening lick, answer it, repeat the first lick, and that long lick at the end is just made by putting 2 1-measure licks together. Right? Quarter note, and then 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So 2 new rhythms, right? Starting with a quarter note, and then all 8th notes. And then for the next measure, 8th notes from the get-go. right? So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. So longer phrases, like that 2-measure idea, or really it's almost a 3-measure idea, right? I'm a real blues man. I can't remember what I played because I just can't play the same thing twice. No, I don't believe in that. I think you can, if you think and you focus, you can definitely play the same thing more than once, but I have already forgotten what I played. But I do know the idea was to take this kind of take these short licks and turn them into this A, B, A, C structure. Right, first lick, answer differently. First lick again. See, I do remember it. So it's a repeat of the A lick, and then these two 1-measure ideas put together. Right? So that's the process we're going to go through in the workshop. We'll have a bunch of different rudiments and suggestions for how to practice them. We'll talk about how to create licks from specific rhythmic ideas and how to practice them to get them into your mind and into your fingers, right? Because you don't want to be sitting there like I just was. Trying to remember this big long string on its own. You want to be able to think of it in terms of building blocks, that it's putting together little 1-measure ideas. And there are things you can do to practice changing up from lick to lick on the fly, measure by measure, get these building blocks into your playing so that you can then deploy them and use them however you want. And that's the third part, which is learning some blues structures like the A-B-A-C form, so that when you're just sitting there on a vamp, you can create this sense of musicality. You can create this sort of 8-bar structure out of thin air. Because if you can do that, then you can sit and just play by moving from phrase to phrase, leaving a little breathing room, playing with this kind of call and response structure. So that's what we're going to cover in the workshop. So just imagine that, only each of those ideas, gone into depth a bit more and with some visual resources to back it up so that you know when you're done what to go and practice and what to look at. So again, 1 hour on Saturday, October 15th, starting at 10:30 Central. I saw a couple questions here, so I am going to go back up through the comments and see if I can answer them. From Bob. Hey, Bob, can I buy a subscription to the Fingerstyle Confidential for someone else? I pay, but they log in and use the lessons. Yeah, I think you could. Just there's a link down below, and if you click on just fretboardconfidential.com, that takes you to the page with all the info about the membership. And I think if you just put in their email, then they'll get the notification that their membership is active. They'll get the login message. They'll be able to use their email to go take that password and create a new password and get going with the account. So yeah, you should be able to do that. That would be a really nice thing to do for someone. Okay. Man, people from all over Canada. Guilford, New Hampshire. Amsterdam. All right. Finland. It's late in Finland, isn't it? And in Amsterdam. Hey, Jody. Good to see you back from New Hampshire. A lot of New England checking in. Oh, and Denton. Nice. That's right up the road for me. All right. Hey, Anton. Bob, you're in Williamsburg. Far out. All right. And Belgium, of course. Seattle. And Italy. Nice. Lots of places I would like to be right now. Okay. Well, I will play through a little bit more like I was at the beginning. And if you have questions, or if anybody would like me to take them through a little bit of what is happening over in the membership, I can pull that. I've got that ready to go. I can pull it up and show you a bit of what we're working on over there. Or we can just call it a day if everybody's found out what they need to know. All the registration stuff is down below. Will there be, hey Floyd, will there be a recording of the workshop on the Fingerstyle 5? Yes, yeah, everybody who's in the membership already, I will provide a link for you before the workshop starts. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to register. You don't have to pay. I know a couple people did by mistake, and I've already tried to rectify that. So there'll be a link so you can attend live as part of the membership, and yeah, it'll be archived. It'll be archived with all the other past material in the Fingerstyle 5 if you're a member. If you're not, and if you're just paying to just take the workshop a la carte, you'll have 2 weeks to check it out and watch the reruns. Okay, so I'll play a little bit more in this vein, and then if you got more questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So that's the idea. As you can see, you can make it as simple or as elaborate as you want. You can put in fills and chords in between the phrases. You can play, traditional one chord blues. Like, people do it all different ways, but like I ended up with Baby Please Don't Go, which some people play with chord changes and some people just play as a vamp, right? So a lot of different ways you can do it. And there were a few people who showed up for the original, not really posted Q&A at noon. And one person asked, well, can I play this for an act? Like, what about playing, in other keys? What about playing other chords in the chord progression? I'm like, yeah, of course. Again, in the name of isolating and focusing, we're just going to stick to an E vamp. But if you have the technique to move your thumb around to different chords, the same ideas apply. Right, to go to the 4 chord. Exact same phrasing, same blues scale, same rhythms. Just landing on an A chord. Or to go to the 5 chord. right? And of course you could move to a different key altogether, or you could even apply this to like playing alternating thumb style. Well, same phrasing, same idea, just different groove. So we're going to focus on the rhythmic aspect of it, the building licks out of the blues scale, and the sort of big picture of the form and the phrasing. And then you can go ahead and work that out over these different keys, in these different grooves, all that you want to. A couple of last comments here, it looks like. Oh, yeah, on a Gretsch hollow body with some reverb and tremolo, I'm all for it. That sounds great. Oh, and hello, Greg from Honolulu. Yes. And Randy, good to see you. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, those are the things that came to talk about. And of course, you can just take those ideas and run with them right now if you want to. If you want to go over them in more detail. One of the other things that I do try to emphasize in the workshops is giving you an idea of how to practice these things once you've got them, right? So ideally, you don't just walk away from the workshop with like a pile of information and go, oh, what do I do with this, right? But I try to provide, like, as we go through the material, say, here, this idea right here, this is the part you should practice first. When you can do this, probably move on to that. And then here's why we're doing this. And you might want to spend some time on this, some time on that, and then, work on this part after that, so that you have an idea of how to practice it. Because obviously this is a lot of information to soak up and will take some time to incorporate into your playing. So I will attempt to leave you with, when you leave the workshop, I'll try to make sure that you've got a bit of a plan for how you can work on this stuff and how best to practice it so that it becomes an actual part of your playing. All right, so thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Links down below if you want to sign up. If you've got more questions, leave them in the comments below afterwards. I'll try to keep an eye on this particular stream for the next couple of days until the workshop on Saturday. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.